Dear friends, I'm Dr. David, and today, before we talk about any foods, I want you to take just a few quiet seconds and simply feel your legs. You don't need to move, stretch, or do anything. Just notice them. Have you ever stood up from a chair and needed to hold on to a table? Have you ever stepped over a small stair and felt like your knees were about to give out? If you have, you are not alone. I've met so many people between 50 and 70 years old. People who once had strong legs, who hiked mountains, who walked for hours without getting tired, and then one day they realized they couldn't stand firmly anymore. One of my patients, Eleanor, she's 68 now, once told me, "Doctor, I don't know what happened. Everything faded so slowly, and yet somehow I just kept getting weaker." And she wasn't wrong. Weakness in the legs doesn't show up overnight. It's like a tiny crack in a wooden plank. You barely notice it at first, but eventually the plank breaks. Here in the US, there is an interesting statistic. A person's longevity can be predicted quite accurately by the strength of their legs. Sounds strange, doesn't it? But when you think about it long enough, it makes perfect sense. Our legs aren't just for walking, climbing stairs, or keeping balance. They are what keep us independent. They allow us to move freely, to take care of ourselves, to participate in life on our own terms. When the legs weaken, it's not just the muscles that fade. Confidence fades, independence fades, and sometimes joy fades as well. I want you to imagine a morning. You wake up, get out of bed, and your legs feel light, steady, and pain-free. You walk outside into your backyard, bend down to pick up a fallen leaf, and stand back up without having to push off with your hands. That feeling, effortless, natural, full of vitality, that's what strong legs bring into your life. And the beautiful thing is, we can get that back, no matter how old we are. Not by pain medication, not by quick fix treatments, but by nourishing the body properly. You've heard a lot about calcium, vitamin D, supplements of all kinds, but strong legs don't just come from strong bones. Strong legs come from nourished joints, muscles that receive the right fuel, reduce silent inflammation, and surprisingly simple foods that support those processes. So today, I want to walk with you, not as a doctor standing above you, but as someone who has watched many patients go through this journey and who has lived long enough to understand what time takes away and what it can give back. If you've ever stood up slowly because your knees trembled, if you've ever hesitated before taking a step, then this video is truly made for you. Let's walk through this together, step by step, so your legs can once again become the strong foundation that supports your life. My dear friends, when we talk about strong legs, most people immediately think about strong bones. But the truth is, long before the bones begin to weaken, the joints have already deteriorated. Let me tell you about one of my patients, Richard. He's 64 years old. He walked into my office with a slight limp, not because of a fracture or severe arthritis, but because he felt like his knees were no longer holding him up. He told me, "Doctor, every time I stand up, my knees make a little cracking sound. It doesn't really hurt, but I'm afraid that one day they'll just give out." And he wasn't wrong. That sensation is often the earliest whisper of cartilage breakdown. What's interesting is that people tend to focus on taking more calcium, while the cartilage actually needs completely different nutrients. I told Richard that if we want strong legs, we have to take care of the soft tissues before repairing the hard structures. The body works like an older car. You can't simply replace the frame and expect it to run smoothly. You need lubrication, new seals, and smoother joints between parts. Have you ever sat down and then stood up and your knees felt stiff? Or maybe while walking, you heard a clicking sound in your joints. Those tiny signs are not just aging. They are cartilage losing elasticity, joint fluid becoming thinner, collagen breaking down. After years of research, I've found that joints can recover, not quickly but steadily, when nourished properly. And one of the most powerful foods for cartilage is okra. Many people see okra as just another vegetable, but for those over 50, it is almost like a natural healing food. Okra has a mucilaginous texture, what many of you know as slimy. But inside that sliminess is a rich source of polysaccharides that work almost like an internal cushion. When you eat okra regularly, that mucilage nourishes the digestive lining, improves mineral absorption, and most importantly, helps replenish joint fluid. Several of my patients who ate okra consistently for 3 to 6 weeks have told me, "Doctor, I stand up easier now," or "My knees don't crack when I climb stairs anymore." But healthy joints alone aren't enough. A healthy joint needs to sit on a foundation of solid bones. That's when we need foods that actually contribute minerals to the bone, not just pass through the body and disappear. Picture bone like a block of concrete. Calcium is only the sand in that concrete. Without cement, water, or steel reinforcement, that concrete will crumble. In the body, vitamin K is the cement, magnesium is the steel, and collagen is the water that binds it all together. So when we talk about strong legs, we're not just talking about the ability to stand up each morning. We are talking about independence, the ability to walk on your own, climb the stairs in your own home, step into your garden, and feel the ground beneath your feet. And that kind of independence is worth nurturing every day through small choices that accumulate into strength. And if those choices begin today, your legs can become strong again, not just physically, but as the foundation of how you live the years ahead. My friends, there's something many people forget. Strong legs don't just come from healthy joints or strong muscles. They come from the quality of the bones beneath them. Bones are not solid, unchanging structures like stone. In reality, every single day, our bones break down a little and rebuild a little. It's a silent remodeling process, much like repairing a roof over time. And if the rebuilding process can't keep up with the breakdown, the bones become porous, fragile, and unable to support the body. That's why so many people in their 60s or 70s can fracture a bone from something as simple as a small misstep. I remember a patient named Margaret. She was 72, living in California. One autumn morning, she walked into her backyard to pick up dried leaves. A small slip. Not a fall down the stairs, not an accident. Just a tiny loss of balance, and she fractured her hip. Later, she told me, "Doctor, I never felt pain before that moment. I had no idea my bones were that weak." And she was right. The body doesn't warn us with loud signals. Weak bones are quiet. They deteriorate gradually, silently, until the day something gives way. And for older adults, a fracture doesn't just take time to heal. Sometimes it takes away confidence, independence, and joy. That is why I always say, if you take care of your joints but ignore your bones, your legs will never truly be strong. And when it comes to bone strength, broccoli, yes, that humble green vegetable, turns out to be the key that so many older adults overlook. You may ask, why broccoli? What makes it so special? It's because broccoli contains something powerful, natural vitamin K. And vitamin K is like the architect that tells calcium where to go. Calcium is the building material, but vitamin K is the engineer that directs it into the bone structure. Without vitamin K, calcium gets lost. It may end up in blood vessels, soft tissues, or pass right through your system without ever strengthening your bones. In my years of working in hospitals, I've met many patients who take calcium daily, sometimes for years, and yet their bones remain weak. When we check their nutrition, nearly all of them are low in vitamin K. And when they increase their intake through food, not pills, their bone density changes noticeably. But broccoli doesn't stop there. It also provides magnesium, a mineral that gives bones flexibility and resilience. Because strong bones shouldn't just be hard, they need to bend slightly under pressure so they don't break. During one of her follow-up visits, Margaret looked at me and said, "Doctor, I wish someone had told me this earlier." I smiled and replied, "It's never too late, especially if you start today." Strong legs don't come from a secret trick. They come from small choices made consistently. And sometimes something as simple as adding a few servings of broccoli to dinner, this week, next week, and the week after, can quietly rebuild the foundation of your entire body. That is the real gift of later adulthood. Not youth regained, but strength restored, one small step at a time. My dear friends, perhaps the most important thing I want you to remember today is not how much broccoli or okra you should eat, but that strong legs must be rebuilt from many angles. Because your legs are not just bones and joints. They are your posture, your confidence, and your ability to stand tall in this life. I once had a patient named Samuel, 67 years old. He used to be a physical education teacher, strong, agile, full of energy. But after retiring, he moved less, ate more simplistically, and slowly his legs weakened. One day he came to my office and said, "Doctor, I walked just one lap around my house, and it felt like my knees couldn't hold me anymore." What upset him the most was not the discomfort. It was that he felt like he was losing the version of himself he once knew. And I told him, "Samuel, we cannot return to our 20-year-old body, but we absolutely can make your 67-year-old body the strongest version it can be." And that was the moment I introduced him to a vegetable that many adults over 50 know, but very few use properly: asparagus. Asparagus has a unique advantage that science has confirmed. It contains natural folate and silica. Folate helps rebuild worn-out cartilage cells, almost like patching areas that have thinned over time. Silica provides the raw framework needed for collagen formation. And collagen is what gives your joints a smooth, cushioned, comfortable motion. Samuel didn't just eat asparagus once and forget about it. He added it consistently, every week, usually at dinner. Slowly, then noticeably, his body responded. And one day he returned and told me, "Doctor, I climbed up to the second floor this week without stopping." For someone who struggled just to rise from a chair without holding on to something, that moment was nothing short of victory. I want you to imagine something. Your legs are like two pillars supporting a house, and that house is the life you still want to live. You walk out to your front yard, you stroll through town, you get into your car, you bend down to pick something up. All of these things depend on your legs. And those legs can absolutely be stronger than they were yesterday if you treat them the right way. What many people don't realize is this: as we age, each decision matters more. One correct food choice can change your health in 30 days. One right habit can reverse symptoms you thought were just age. I've seen hundreds of people turn their strength around, and I believe you can do the same. We are living in a time where good health is no longer complicated. It's sitting right in your kitchen. It's on your dinner plate. And if today you give your legs just one small priority, a true nutrient, a thoughtful choice, your legs will give back something priceless in return: the freedom of adulthood. And I have always believed it is never too late to walk more confidently, more firmly, and with more life in every step. My dear friends, there is something I often tell my older patients. The strength of your legs is a reflection of how you've treated your body over the years. And the wonderful truth is, that reflection can change starting today. When it comes to caring for your legs, the key is not eating more, but eating right. Your joints need softness and lubrication. Your bones need stability and structure. Your muscles need flexibility and nourishment. And that only happens when we combine the wisdom we have at this age with small, steady habits we can maintain. I once worked with a woman named Caroline. She's 71 now. She told me that what saddened her most wasn't the discomfort in her knees or the feeling of weakness, but that she could no longer take her morning walks the way she used to. She said, "Doctor, I used to walk 3 laps around the park. Now I barely finish the first one before I need to sit down." And you know, that is not just a medical symptom. It is an emotional loss. I told Caroline her legs weren't weak because of time alone, but because they had been neglected. Then I gave her a plan that was very simple. Not medication, not intense exercise, just small changes in how she nourished herself daily. That plan included a combination of okra, broccoli, and asparagus. Those three vegetables are not magic, but when used the right way, they nourish your legs in three powerful directions. Okra lubricates the joints, broccoli strengthens the muscles, asparagus improves the circulation, improves synovial fluid, and slows cartilage breakdown. Broccoli reinforces the bones and helps calcium go exactly where it belongs. Asparagus repairs cartilage cells and reduces silent inflammation in joint tissues. After 4 weeks, Caroline returned to my office. She sat down and stood back up, without needing to push off the chair. Her face lit up as if she had recovered a part of herself that she thought was gone. And in that moment, I understood something deeply. Health always returns to us gently. Now imagine a warm afternoon. You walk around your yard, your steps feel light, your knees don't hurt. You sit down, then stand up, easily. You reach up for a book on a high shelf, stretch your legs, turn your body, without effort. Those simple moments. That is freedom in adulthood. That is independence. That is dignity. And perhaps the most beautiful part of caring for your legs is the return of things you thought you had lost. You begin enjoying evening walks again. You can stand in the kitchen longer without fatigue. You can go to the park with your grandchild without worrying about falling behind. My friends, food will not make you 20 years old again, but it can make your 60 or 70-year-old body operate at its highest potential. And that is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. If you start today, not with effort or pressure, but with appreciation, your legs will thank you for every step they carry you through in the years ahead. My dear friends, before we continue talking about vegetables that support strong bones and joints, I want to pause for a moment and address something most people never consider. There are certain vegetables, although they seem harmless, that can gradually weaken your legs over time. Sounds strange, doesn't it? Because all our lives we've heard, vegetables are healthy. But once we reach our 50s and beyond, the way we choose vegetables becomes a major factor in bone strength, joint mobility, and overall leg stability. Let me begin with a story about Henry. He's 66 and lives in Arizona. Every morning he ate sandwiches with pickled cucumbers and even drank a little of the brine, believing it was healthy for digestion and light on the stomach. When he came to see me, he didn't complain of pain, but his legs felt unstable. He said, "Doctor, when I stand up, it feels like my knees want to buckle." At that time, his lower leg bone density had already declined, though he looked perfectly normal on the outside. So what caused it? It was the excessive sodium from pickled foods. When cucumbers are preserved in salt brine, their sodium level becomes extremely high. And what most people don't realize is that every time the kidneys flush out sodium, calcium is flushed out along with it. And in older adults whose bones are already thinning, losing calcium daily is like removing one brick at a time from the foundation of a house. Not this week, not next week, but over months and years, the legs begin to weaken. There's another issue, the acidity from vinegar. To neutralize acidic foods, your body uses alkaline minerals, especially calcium stored inside your bones. We eat for flavor, but our body silently pays the price. And if pickled cucumbers pull calcium out of the bones, then corn blocks the absorption of it altogether. Corn contains phytic acid, a compound that binds to calcium, magnesium, zinc, and prevents the body from absorbing them effectively. I once saw lab results from a patient who switched to boiled corn instead of rice because she thought it was lighter and healthier, but her bone density declined faster than expected. Why? Not because she was eating less, but because she was eating incorrectly. Instead of building bone each day, she absorbed very little of the minerals she needed. There's another issue. Corn spikes blood sugar quickly, leading to low-grade inflammation throughout the body. And inflammation is one of the most silent destroyers of cartilage and bone tissue. She looked at me and asked, "Doctor, I barely eat anything wrong. Why is my body still deteriorating?" And I responded, "It's not that you eat too much. It's that you're choosing foods that take away more than they give." Now you might ask, should I eliminate these foods completely? And my answer is no, not necessarily. But what truly matters is awareness. A small serving of pickled vegetables once in a while won't harm you, but eating them daily will slowly drain your bone foundation. Having corn occasionally is fine, but relying on it as your main carbohydrate will silently weaken your bones without you realizing it. My friends, legs don't weaken in a day. They weaken through small decisions repeated over many months. So if you can, adjust gently. Not with strict restrictions, not with fear, but with respect for the part of your body that has supported you faithfully for decades. Your legs have carried you through work, family, travels, joys, losses. They deserve to be nourished wisely. My dear friends, whenever I talk about vegetables that should be limited, many people ask me the same question. "Doctor, how much is okay? Do I have to stop eating them completely?" And my answer is always the same. Not necessarily. You don't need to eliminate them entirely, but you must understand what your body is sacrificing in exchange. Imagine someone who eats just a few slices of pickled cucumber every afternoon with lunch, maybe 3 or 4 small pieces. Seems harmless, right? But if that becomes a routine for 300 days a year, your body is processing a tremendous amount of sodium over time. And for someone over 60, Every time the kidneys flush sodium, calcium exits the bones along with it, quietly, silently, without warning. Until one day you stand up from a chair and hear a faint crack in your knee, or you walk for 3 minutes and your knees begin to feel shaky. That is the hidden cost of gradual mineral loss. I once had a patient named Linda. She was 64. She loved salads with strong vinegar dressings. What she didn't know is that acidic environments in the body must be neutralized. And how does the body neutralize acid? With alkaline minerals, especially calcium stored in the bones. I once asked her, "Do you take calcium?" She smiled proudly. "Yes, every day, 2 tablets." And she wasn't lying. But most of that calcium never went into her bones. It was used to neutralize the acidity from her meals instead of rebuilding bone density. Now let's talk about corn. Many people think corn is light, a healthier carbohydrate. But for people over 50, the issue is not calories. The issue is that corn blocks nutrient absorption. Corn contains phytic acid. Its job is to bind minerals like calcium, magnesium, and zinc and prevent the body from absorbing them. So if in one meal you eat corn along with broccoli or okra, the phytic acid in the corn will reduce the absorption of the two healthier foods. Meaning, you eat correctly, but your body doesn't benefit correctly. One evening, I was talking to Harold, the patient I mentioned earlier, and he asked me, "Doctor, can choosing the wrong food undo the benefit of the good ones?" I smiled and said, "It's like building a new wall with strong bricks, but mixing weak cement. The outcome has nothing to do with the bricks. It depends on the foundation holding them together." My friends, these vegetables are not harmful. They simply disrupt balance. And at ages 50 to 70, the body does not correct mistakes as quickly as it did at 30. A small mistake today, repeated consistently, becomes a major loss later. The wonderful thing is, you don't need drastic change. You just replace pickled cucumbers with fresh cucumbers. Replace corn with sweet potatoes or squash. Reduce vinegar, use lemon juice instead. Every small change is like placing back one brick into the foundation of your body. And one morning, you step out of bed. Your legs are steady, your knees aren't stiff, and your steps feel lighter again. That moment is a gift you quietly give to yourself, one wise choice at a time. My dear friends, if you've stayed with me until this part of the video, I want you to know how meaningful that truly is. Not just for me, but for your own health. Because the person who chooses to listen, to understand, and to take action to protect their legs is the person who will live with more independence, more strength, and more freedom. I want you to take a few seconds and think about your legs, about all the places they've carried you and all the moments they've held you steady. They've taken you to the people you love, kept you standing through difficult times, helped you care for your family, and carried you through countless seasons of life. Now is the moment to give something back, not through force, not through strain, but through gentle, thoughtful care. If today you realize that certain foods are weakening your legs, start reducing them. If you understand that certain vegetables can nourish your joints, bones, and cartilage, start adding them. One meal, one day, one small choice. That is exactly how adults rebuild strength, step by step, with intention. And I want you to remember this. Better health does not come from perfection, it comes from consistency. You don't need to change everything at once. You just need to start. Today, if you found these insights helpful, I'd love for you to do something small. For yourself and for others who may need this information, click like, so this message reaches more people suffering with weak joints and fragile bones. Leave a comment and tell me, what challenges are you facing with your legs? And which vegetables are you planning to try? I read every single comment and I respond to support you in the best way I can. And most importantly, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Tomorrow I'll be sharing a topic that countless people over 60 have asked me about for years. A simple yet extremely powerful approach that restores bone strength in just a few weeks. And I don't want you to miss that. You and I were rebuilding your legs together, one small piece at a time. Age may take things away, but when we understand how to care for ourselves, we can keep what matters, our independence, our stability, and the joy in every step. Thank you for spending this time with me, listening like an old friend sitting across the table. Take care of your legs because they're not just holding up your body, they're carrying the rest of your life. I'll see you tomorrow at the same time. This is Dr. David, wishing you a peaceful evening and light, confident steps ahead.